All right, let's just dive right in. We've all been there, right? That mandatory security training. Oh, the endless slide decks, the super dry policies, and that quiz at the end you're just clicking through to get it over with. But what if that whole approach is, well, fundamentally broken? Today, we're going to look at a surprisingly powerful and kind of ancient solution to this very modern problem. So let me ask you this, and be honest. Is your security training actually working? I mean, really working? Are those hours you're putting in actually changing how people behave and making your organization safer? Or is it just a box you have to tick for compliance? Because, the data is starting to show a pretty serious disconnect. So what does that disconnect look like in the real world? Well, it looks like this number, right here, 33%. Now, this represents a massive vulnerability. We're talking about a world where, before any real effective training, about a third of all employees will click on a malicious phishing link. 1 in 3. And hey, in some industries, it's actually closer to half. That should tell us loud and clear that whatever we've been doing, it's just not cutting it. See, that 33%, it's not just some random statistic. It's really a symptom of a much, much deeper problem. We've got an engagement crisis on our hands. The way we've always done security awareness training, it might actually be working against us. I mean, does any of this sound familiar? For so many companies, security training is just about ticking a box. It's built on these super dry slide decks, lectures about policy, and just lists of do this, don't do that. And here's the problem. That whole approach, it only talks to the logical part of our brain and our short-term memory. It tells us what to do, sure, but it completely fails to connect on a level that actually changes how we behave in the long run.
And this quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of the problem. Boredom is the enemy. Because when training is forgettable, it's basically useless, right? These rules without any context, without any kind of emotional hook, they just don't stick. An employee might remember a policy during the training, but a few weeks later, when that sketchy email lands in their inbox on a busy Friday afternoon, that lesson is long, long gone.
So, okay, if the old way is totally broken, how do we fix it? Well, what if I told you we could tap into one of the most ancient and frankly most powerful human technologies ever created? I'm talking about telling stories. Now, the science behind why this works is absolutely fascinating. There's this phenomenon called neural coupling. And what it means is that when you listen to a story, your brain doesn't just process the words. No, it actually lights up the same areas it would if you were living the events of that story. So you're not just hearing about some character facing a phishing scam. On a brain level, a part of you is right there, experiencing it too.
I mean, just look at the difference here. Traditional training, with all its facts and figures, it activates maybe 2 regions of the brain. 2. But a story, a good story, lights up 7 or more. It completely transforms abstract rules into scenarios you can actually relate to. It builds these emotional connections, and it cements the lessons deep in your long-term memory. It's like a full brain workout versus just lifting a pinky finger.
And get this, there's more. Compelling stories, the ones with characters you care about, actually cause our brains to release oxytocin. You've probably heard of it. It's the empathy hormone. It's what makes us trust the person telling the story and really care about what happens. So when one of your employees feels that little pang of anxiety for a character in a story who's about to click a bad link, that emotion is what helps lock the lesson in their brain permanently.
Okay, so the science is super cool. I get it. But what does this actually mean for the bottom line, right? What's the real-world payoff of switching to this story-driven approach? Well, it's about making a huge leap from just checking a compliance box to building a real, genuine security culture. And here's the kicker. This is huge. Studies have shown that just by weaving information into a story, you can boost how much people remember by up to 65%. Let that sink in for a second. 65%. Suddenly, all that effort and money you're pouring into training becomes so much more valuable because people actually remember what they learned when it really, really counts. And the benefits, they don't even stop there. Stories make these abstract threats feel concrete and relatable. They let your employees gain experience from these war stories without having to make the painful mistake themselves. And, maybe most importantly, they make training more enjoyable. And that boosts engagement and helps build a positive culture where security feels like a shared mission, not just another boring chore. So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway here? It's this simple but really powerful idea. If you want the training to last, make it a story. If you want the lessons from your security program to have a real, lasting impact, they can't just be a list of rules. They've got to be stories. All right, so maybe you're convinced. You're thinking, okay, this makes sense. But the big question is, how do you actually do it? Now don't worry, this isn't about becoming a Hollywood screenwriter overnight. It's just about applying a few simple, really effective storytelling techniques. So here's your playbook.
Okay, step 1, cast your employees as the heroes of the story. They aren't just passive rule followers anymore. They are the protagonists, the people on a mission to protect the company. And of course, every hero needs a villain, right? So personify the threat. Give it a face, a name, something like Harry the Hacker to make the antagonist feel real. Next, you've got to build some suspense and conflict. Pose a tricky scenario and then pause. Let the audience wonder, oh man, what happens next? Then you show the resolution. You model the exact behavior you want to see and its positive outcome. And finally, you always end with a clear moral, the one key takeaway you want them to remember.
Okay, theory is great and all, but let's see it in action. Let's walk through a super quick example of how this playbook can transform a really dry policy point into a mini story that actually sticks.
So, first, the setup. Picture this, it's 4:55 p.m. on a Friday. You're trying to wrap things up for the week, and suddenly, an urgent email from the CEO lands in your inbox. The pressure is instantly on.
And here comes the conflict. The email is asking for an immediate wire transfer to a brand new vendor to close some kind of confidential deal. This is a classic scam, right? It's using that urgency and confidentiality to try and bypass your normal critical thinking. So, what does our hero do now?
This is the resolution. This is the heroic moment. Instead of panicking and just clicking, the employee remembers a war story just like this from their training. And that memory, it's the trigger. It makes them pause, step away from the email, and just pick up the phone to quickly verify the request. And finally, the moral of the story. See, the lesson isn't just a boring rule like verify requests. The lesson is a 2-minute phone call just saved the company from a $50,000 mistake. That is a lesson that sticks. It's tangible, it's dramatic, and it's pretty much unforgettable. That right there is the power of a story.
So you see, when we embrace this kind of approach, we totally change what security awareness even is. It stops being this boring checklist of things you have to do for compliance, and it becomes a collection of shared stories. It becomes part of your company's actual culture, its lore.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. Every single organization is telling a security story, whether you realize it or not. The only question is, what story will your organization tell? Will it be the one where a hero saved the day, or will it be the one you really wish you could forget? The story is being written as we speak,